We've always tried to make sense of our existence, right? We use metaphors. Life is a journey, a battle, a brief spark. But what if one of the most powerful explanations we have, one that's been around for over 2,000 years, suggests our entire reality is nothing more than shadows on a wall? That is the absolutely mind-bending idea at the heart of Plato's Allegory of the Cave.
I mean, it's a question we've all wrestled with, probably late at night, staring at the ceiling. What is actually real? And how can we be so sure that what we see and hear and touch is the whole story?
And that, of course, leads to the next huge question. How do we really know anything? Is knowledge just something we absorb from the world around us? Or is it something deeper, something we have to kind of uncover for ourselves?
Well, that pretty wild idea comes from the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. And this single image, this idea of being chained in a cave, is the foundation for his famous Allegory of the Cave, a story that was designed to completely flip our understanding of reality on its head.
Okay, so to really get the power of this allegory, we have to imagine it. We have to step into the darkness with Plato and see the world exactly how the prisoners see it. So picture this. You have been chained up in a deep cave your entire life, since birth. You can't even turn your head. All you can do is stare at the blank stone wall in front of you. Now, behind you, there's a fire burning, and people are walking past it, carrying objects. All you see are the shadows these objects cast on the wall. For you, these dancing, flickering shadows are the world. It's literally all you've ever known.
And for these prisoners, these shadows aren't just illusions. No, they're reality. They're real things. They give them names, they talk about their shapes, their movements. This world of fleeting images is the only truth they have. It's their entire existence. And right here, you can see the two starkly different realities Plato is setting up. Inside the cave, you've got the comfort of what's familiar, even if it's just an illusion. It's a world built on shadows and, let's face it, ignorance. But outside that cave, that's where you find the harsh, maybe even painful light of truth and real knowledge.
But the story doesn't just end there in the darkness. The real punch of the allegory, where it gets really interesting, is what happens when one person is forced to leave that cave and step into the light.
So imagine one of the prisoners is suddenly freed. He's dragged, kicking and screaming probably, out of the cave and into the sunlight. And at first it's just pain. The light is blinding, it's confusing, but slowly his eyes start to adjust. First, he can only see reflections in the water. Then he starts to see the actual objects themselves. And finally, he can look at the sun. And that's when it hits him. The sun is the source of everything. The shadows he thought were real, they were just faint copies. The cave was a total illusion. And his very first thought is, I have to go back. I have to tell the others.
But then comes the twist. When he gets back down into the cave, his eyes, which are now used to the bright sun, can't really make out the dim shapes on the wall anymore. The world he knew so well, the reality he shared with his friends, is now just a blurry, confusing mess to him.
So, how do the other prisoners react? Well, they don't see an enlightened person. They see someone who left and came back. Broken. He can't even see their world properly anymore. They think the journey made him stupid, that it ruined him. And when he tries to free them, to drag them into the light, they fight back. And they fight back hard, choosing to stay right where they are, in their comfortable ignorance.
So why has this story fascinated people for literally thousands of years? Because it's not just about some prisoners and shadows. It's this incredible analogy with so many layers of meaning. For Plato himself, this was deeply political. The freed prisoner, that's the philosopher, who is trying to teach the public to enlighten them. But the public, the prisoners still in the cave, they often push back against ideas that challenge what they've always believed. And this was personal for Plato. His own teacher, the famous Socrates, was actually executed for doing just that. It's why Plato ended up arguing that society shouldn't be ruled by the masses, but by philosopher kings, the few who have actually seen the light. The allegory is also the key to understanding one of Plato's biggest, most famous ideas, the theory of forms. The basic idea is that our physical world, the one we live in, isn't the real world. It's just a flawed copy, kind of like the shadows on the wall. The real world, according to Plato, is a higher realm of perfect, ideal forms. Think about it like this. You've seen lots of different chairs in your life, right? But in this higher realm, there's a perfect ideal concept of chairness itself, and every physical chair is just an imperfect copy of that perfect form.
And that's why this story has stuck around for so long. It's been picked apart and reinterpreted in so many ways. Theologians might see those perfect forms as ideas in the mind of God. Linguists see it as a puzzle about how we use abstract words to describe physical things. It just forces us to ask these massive questions about what reality even is.
And that's what makes this a parable, not a fable. See, a fable, like the tortoise and the hare, gives you a really clear, simple moral at the end. Slow and steady wins the race. But a parable, like the cave, is much deeper. It uses a simple story to get at a huge, complex philosophical truth. And it doesn't give you an easy answer. It leaves the ending open for us to think about.
And all that thinking, all that contemplation, brings this 2,400-year-old story right into our lives today. It poses a question that is just as urgent and relevant now as it was back in ancient Athens.
This is the challenge Plato leaves us with. The journey to truth, to real knowledge, is hard. It's painful. It can even make you feel like a stranger to your own community, to the people who are happy living among the shadows. So, what do you choose? Because at the end of the day, it really boils down to a choice between two very different paths. There's the demanding, difficult path into the light, the path of truth, knowledge, and growth. Or there's the much easier path in the shadow, the one of habit, comfort, and, well, stagnation. It's a choice every single one of us has to make. It's a really difficult choice, a tough one. But maybe there's a strange sort of comfort in knowing that if you choose to stay in the familiar darkness, well, you won't be alone. There are lots of us down here,